Hello out there, welcome to Your Next Mission video podcast. The topic we get most requests on the show is VA benefits. Our guest today helped lead the Department of Veterans Affairs over the past 4 years. And during that time, the VA delivered more care and more benefits to more veterans than any time in our nation's history. We're going to cover this and much more, so please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Your Next Mission video podcast, where we tell the stories of those who have served in the past and those who are serving today. From transition to financial wellness, VA benefits to mental health, we cover issues facing veterans, active military, and their families. Now here's your host, the 12th Sergeant Major of the Army and co-founder of the American Freedom Foundation, Jack L. Tilley.
Thanks for joining us, and thanks to all of our veterans and service members and their families for your service to our great country. Now, before we get started, I personally want to thank our presenting sponsors. Navy Federal Credit Union, whose members are the mission. Purdue Global, where you can start your comeback. And USAA, whose mission is taking care of military community and their families always. With additional sponsorship from Blue Cross Blue Shield FEP Dental and Blue Cross Blue Shield FEP Vision. Together, they make Your Next Mission happen. They love our veterans and families, and I say it every week, we love them too. Today, we're going to talk about the veterans care at the Veterans Department of Affairs. And I'm excited, in fact, I'm honored to welcome to the show the Honorable Tanya Bradsher, former Deputy Secretary of the VA and a 20-year U.S. Army combat veteran. She served in numerous positions throughout the government, including spokesperson on the White House National Security Council, press officer for the Secretary of Defense, and Assistant Secretary of Public Affairs at the Department of Homeland Security. Ma'am, I'm honored. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sergeant Major. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we got a lot to talk about, and I'm going to sort of dig in there today and get you going, so I want to hear a lot of that great information, but there's always a but to everything I say, I think. But before we do that, would you tell the audience just a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm a fourth-generation Army veteran. I was born in Arlington, Virginia, and then my dad was drafted for Vietnam, ended up at what's now Fort Liberty, back then called Fort Bragg, North Carolina, where I lived for 11 years. My dad was a cook in the Army. He basically was on jump status for 11 consecutive years till he blew out his knee, and then, of course, that meant he had to go to Germany. So he went to Germany, and my mom and I and my brother moved back to Virginia. And then went to junior high school, and then went to North Carolina to become a Tar Heel, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And then after, came back to Virginia and really didn't have a plan. And met a guy, got married, didn't really work out too well. And my mom drove me to the recruiters, and we're sitting in the parking lot. And I said, "Why are we here?" And she said, "We didn't send you to college to live this life." My parents didn't go to college. And so, I really didn't know exactly what it was to do. And so she said, "You're going to go get your commission in the Army." And so basically she said, if I didn't go in to meet the recruiter, that I couldn't have lunch. So I went and talked to the recruiter because I was really hungry. And with that, I talked to the recruiter, ended up going through the process and became a 90-day wonder, went to Fort Benning, Georgia, and got my commission after basic training at Fort Jackson, and then started my Army career. My first assignment was in Korea, got a divorce, moved forward, and started off as AG, did personnel, ran the mess hall, which was really fun as my first job in the Army since I lived in mess halls as a kid. And so actually got to run and really had a great time with that. Followed that, went to MEPS in North Carolina, and after that, ended up going to American Forces Information Service, also had a command. And so with that, got married my husband. We started our family. He's also in the military. He's MI, and ended up in the Pentagon being a Joint Staff intern for 9/11. And, was started in July, and then the plane hit in September, obviously. And with that kind of did like a very different movement of my career. I was a public affairs, but at the time you were dual tracked. And that kind of made it where I was going to be public affairs for the rest of my career, because I started in the National Military Command Center doing overnight briefings and, prepping and talking to media and doing all the queries with that, and did that for 2 years. So 01 to 03. And then we went back to Korea, my husband and I and my 2 daughters, and took my company command, Delta Company 516th Postal, and got to be a postal company commander in Yongsan, which was amazing. And then got promoted to major, and then I became a full-time public affairs officer. So I was the deputy PAO for 8th Army, and then went to Fort Carson and deployed with 2nd Brigade, 4th Infantry Division to Iraq. We were in Diwania when the Maliki decided that the Polish army was not going to be able to stay. So we were the unit that replaced them. And then halfway through our deployment, when he decided that the Brits weren't going to be able to stay, we were the brigade that jumped to Basra. And this is 08, 09, and then ended up in Basra. And so we did 6 months in both locations. And then I came back and I ended up at the Pentagon. Back there again, first time I was in Joint Staff, second time I was an Office Secretary of Defense, desk officer. And so I had, for whatever reason, I'm not sure why they were mad at me, but they made me the Gitmo spokesman. And so I ended up 10 days being assigned to the Pentagon back, not back, but in Cuba, with the same Base-X tents that we had during our deployments, same generators, same T-walls. And so with that, I did 2 years there, and then was asked if I would interview to go to the National Security Council. So I interviewed to go to the National Security Council and ended up getting selected. And so went over to the White House, this was 2011, and had to figure out what to wear to work every day, because I had been in uniform at that point for 18 years. And so it was time to like put on suits and, color coordinate and do all those things that you do when you leave the military. So that was the last 2 years on active duty. And so I retired out of that position and ended up being hired as the outreach coordinator for President Obama for veterans, military families, and wounded warriors. And so it was my first job interview, and I just took the job, but I didn't ask like what the salary was. Don't do that. My husband was pretty upset with the whole thing. Like, what do you mean you're only making $60,000? And I was like, yeah, but I'm working for President Obama. It's going to be great. And it was, though. I really enjoyed it. But then Jay Johnson, who I actually worked for, remember, he was the general counsel for DOD, and then he became Secretary of Homeland Security. Well, I was his PAO on active duty. So he asked me to join him over at DHS, and that's how I ended up becoming the Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs. And quite frankly, Sergeant Major, I thought that was my last stint in government. I pretty much figured once I left DHS that would be it. And so I ended up at American Psychiatric Association. I ran their communications for a couple of years, got my master's at GW, used my GI Bill. For folks out there, use your GI Bill, check on it, make sure you can use it. Don't let it evaporate before it expire. But also with that, ended up wanting to go back and serve again. And so I applied to be a chief of staff on the Hill. And that sounds really crazy, but I thought, why not? It was actually in Arlington, Virginia, which is where I grew up. And, it's where I went to high school. And it was actually where I was living at the time. I was in the district. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to apply for this job and see what happens. And I ended up getting it. And so I became the chief of staff to Congressman Don Beyer. And quite frankly, I thought that was going to be what I was going to do for the rest of my career, because I was able to be in service and, take care of people, take care of constituents, and learn about the Hill. And that was very exciting. And then lo and behold, I was asked to assist with the transition team for President Biden. So I went and served on the transition team and helped bring in the incoming folks for DHS, DOD, State Department, and USAID, and was asked to join the administration to go to NSC again. So I thought, okay, that'd be great. I'll go to NSC. So on the inauguration day 4 years ago, which seems so fast, I actually went to the White House and was there, and then in February was asked who I recommended to be the incoming Secretary of VA's Chief of Staff, Dennis McDonough, and I said me. And so we
Nothing
ended up
wrong with that,
talking.
that's for sure.
Well, you know, the what was the blessing was I worked for him when I was on active duty.
Yeah.
So when I was detailed to NSC, he
No,
was
he
the
was in
deputy.
he was in the military also? What
No,
rank?
he was the deputy national security advisor.
Oh, okay.
So so my last couple of years on active duty, that's who I used to work for.
Mhm.
And so to have the opportunity to go work for him again, you know, I thought, wow, that'd be a phenomenal. I didn't think, number one, and I thought everybody else would already be lined up for that job. I didn't think I'd have a shot. But if they were going to ask, then I was going to put myself in the hat. And he selected me. So I became his chief of staff. And to be honest, once again, I would have been thrilled to have been his chief of staff throughout. But then the deputy secretary decided early last year in 23 that he was going to go back to private sector. And Secretary McDonough said, so you're going to become the nominee. And he goes, that's who I'm going to recommend the White House. And so he did. And I became the nominee. And I was announced April of last year and confirmed in September. So it's just been a crazy ride.
You know, it's funny how things like that. It's all about relationships and what people have watched you do. I mean, throughout the time I was in the military, I didn't never plan on staying in the military. I really wanted to get out, and after I got out, I struggled. I didn't fit in, so I went back in. But after that, I just sort of stayed focused. I never asked for anything. I just said, you know, the Army will put me where they want to put me. And they did, and it just sort of all worked out anyway. And one of the things you did say, you said a lot of really good things, but one of the things, I was in the Pentagon for 9/11. I think you knew that, didn't you? Yeah.
I did not, actually.
Yeah, I was a sergeant major.
But I think,
Yeah. I was sergeant major.
That's probably why I know you
Yeah.
so well.
Yeah,
And just because, that makes sense.
Yeah. But it's looking back at that time at 9/11, I thought there's people in the Pentagon, you probably know that too, they didn't want to go back into the Pentagon. They really struggled. And I remember going around and talking to people and saying, hey, how's everything going and all that stuff, trying to, coax them to go back in and work, and if they had stress or, so that was, for me, this is probably a dumb thing to say, but I've said dumb things all the time anyway. But for me to say that it didn't bother me, I just sort of said it's another day, just move on and do the best you can and get through that, Hey, I want to get into the show now a little bit. A lot of great information, and thank you for sharing that with the audience. We've had a lot of guests come on the show who say that the Veterans Trust has improved and really gotten a lot better. Do you think it's gotten better in the VA? Do you see me personally, I've seen a lot of changes at the VA clinic I do, and I think it has gotten a lot better. But how about yourself? Do you think it's gotten better?
So we know that veteran trust scores have gone up. They've gone up 4 points in the last 4 years. And so we're seeing it on the average for the nation. And so we're seeing that veterans are coming in, and we're also seeing more veterans are applying for their claims, and we're seeing more veterans are coming in to register with their health care. So one of the things that I'm most proud of is in 2024, we had 53,000 additional women sign up for healthcare in the VA. We had 729,000 veterans across the country sign up, and an increase. And so we're super fortunate to see more veterans coming in. And I really think the PACT Act is one of the reasons why we've seen such a huge number of growth. But what's really great is not only are we seeing more veterans come in, we're also seeing the trust scores go up as well. So they are happy with the quality of care that they are receiving when they come in to get their care at the VA. And so it's really been a phenomenal journey to see. And we've been able to do that because we're meeting veterans where they are. One of the best trips that I had during my tenure here was to be able to go to South Dakota, and I went to Sturgis. And, we had 40 employees set up in the American Legion parking lot with our vet centers. And we had our benefits folks there. We had our cemetery folks there. We had our healthcare folks there. And what our folks did is they went ahead and volunteered to serve breakfast at the American Legion and encourage veterans who were coming through the American Legion to say, hey, we've got our folks here. If you haven't signed up for your benefits, or if you need to check out something, let us know. We're here, we're ready to go. And so veterans came in through the week of Sturgis to be able to come in and sign up for healthcare. And one phenomenal one was a woman Army soldier who unfortunately had experienced MST while on active duty, and basically after leaving service wanted nothing to do with the VA. And she went in and signed up, started her claim process, and also got a mental health counseling right there on the spot, because we were where the veterans were. And for us to be able to see veterans come in who, for several experiences, I retired in 2013 and I out-processed in the DC Medical Center, and it was fine. It wasn't a bad experience for me, but it was fine. It wasn't a place that I thought, I'd want to see my care. And now I go to VA as part of my care, because you can do both. Even as a retiree, you don't have to just go TRICARE. You can do VA and you can do TRICARE. And so I think a lot of folks think that there's this fake fork in the road that you can't do both, and you can. And it works very well together.
I've been doing both for 10 years. I do it all the time. I mean, I went, in fact, when I went to the, I went on TRICARE and down in Florida, they said, well, you're going to have to go and find another medical care. Because at the time, they was going to push all the veterans in Florida off of TRICARE and put them in whatever they wanted to do. And I said, okay. And I said, well, I got VA, I'll go to VA. And I've been so pleasantly pleased by what VA's did for me for, last 15 or probably 10 years anyway, that they've helped me out a great deal.
And that's, there was a time when VA was kind of the punching bag for everybody. Mm-hmm. And then whenever I've talked to a veteran and their reaction is, oh, the VA sucks, and I said, okay, why? What are we not doing for you? Every time I've tried to scratch that, it's, well, my VA is okay, but everybody else's VA.
Well, you know what it's tied to, it's tied to benefits. It's tied to what percentage of disability that you get. Most people are bothered by the fact that, I applied for disability, I only got 10% or 15% or 20%. And they think, well, you should automatically get 100%. And that's what they're usually frustrated about. I think
Agreed.
VA yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, but that's what was so great about the PACT Act, right? Is that we were really able to take substantial, for a very significant number of veterans, 1 million claims have been filed for PACT Act, and 72% approval rating. And so a lot of veterans who were sitting at their 30% are now sitting at 70%. And a lot who were sitting at 70% are up to 100% because of the presumptives. So basically, like for myself, sinusitis. Ever since I got back from Iraq, Duania had a burn pit smack dab in the middle. Every time I went for a run, I would hawk up gunk, my eyes would water. And, I've had sinus infections for over a decade. So when PACT Act came out, I took all of my sinus infections and all of the medical paperwork and I turned it in, and I had 0% coming out in 13. And then I was able to get an increase with that because of the presumptive. I had deployed and I had the condition. And so that is what is so wonderful about the PACT Act, is being able to really take a good look at all the presumptives that are now added due to the PACT Act, and really take care of more veterans, especially those that were exposed to toxins. And so that has been a really phenomenal opportunity that we've been able to take care of so many more.
Yeah, we got to take a short break. Before we do that, though, I'm going to tell you that the problem is years ago when I got out of the service is we didn't educate people enough about the benefits and entitlements. And now we're doing a better job with doing that. So I think that's probably one of the things, the PACT Act. And there's more. And in fact, you got to be honest now, the VA is starting to market a little bit differently now. And they're getting the word out to a lot more people. So I think that's the biggest difference. And younger veterans want to use the VA. So I think so. We have to take a short break. When we come back, I want to talk about how to sustain those improvements, the things we've just been talking about. So please don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. I guarantee you that. This is Your Next Mission video podcast with me, your host, Jack F. Tilley, 12th Sergeant Major Army. If you're enjoying this discussion, I know you are, because we're talking about taking care of our veterans. Please like us. Click on that subscribe button below. And be sure to click on the bell to receive notifications of all of our upcoming video podcast releases. I'll be right back after word from our presenting sponsors.
You're watching Your Next Mission video podcast, proudly presented by Navy Federal Credit Union, the most trusted credit union owned by members of the military community, serving all branches of the armed forces and their families. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. Their members are the mission. Purdue Global. You're ready for a comeback, and with Purdue Global, you can do more than take classes. You can take charge of your story, of your career, of your life. Earn a degree you can be proud of and get an education employers respect. Start your comeback at purdueglobal.edu. And USAA.
A promise is a trust not to be broken, whether spoken with an oath
Solemnly swear.
or sealed with a pinky. And after 100 years, we're still taking care of the military community and their families. That's our mission, always.
Now back to your host, the 12th Sergeant Major of the Army, Jack L. Tilley.
Welcome back. We're blessed to be here with the Honorable Tanya Bradsher, former Deputy Secretary of the VA and a 20-year U.S. Army combat veteran. Before we get back to our discussion, I want to let you know about a way to support the work we're doing on behalf of veterans and their families here at the American Freedom Foundation. If you have a used vehicle you're planning to get rid of or some property you don't have any plans for, you can donate. Please visit our website at American Freedom Foundation /donate and click on the vehicle donation button or the home donation button to support the work that we're doing. We really appreciate your support. Man, we talked earlier about veteran care, improving during your time as your Deputy Secretary at the VA. Yeah, really, how do you sustain that, what you've been doing? How do we keep more of that going in the right direction?
So, I think the best part is that with the PACT Act, we brought in more veterans. The PACT Act was bipartisan. And so with that, I am confident that the incoming administration will ensure that, we continue to focus on veterans. It is nonpartisan. And so with that, we need to ensure that we have the right clinicians. We have to make sure that we have the right facilities. And we also want to make sure that veterans know that we're there for them and that, VA provides the best care for our veterans.
Yeah, one of the things we talked about just a second ago, we talked about you guys are marketing it a lot differently. And you talked about it just a few minutes ago about going to Colorado and getting out there and getting on the ground and talk to our veterans. Are you going to do a lot more of that around the country?
Absolutely. What's wonderful with PACT Act is there's actually a budget that's part of the outreach. And so we have also worked incredibly hard with our Veteran Experience Office to ensure that we are reaching out to veterans through emails, that we're using social media, that we are using traditional media as well, and looking for opportunities to highlight local events because there's a lot of information that comes out. And so when you look at being able to advertise and focus on events or signups or different events that local facilities are having, we can really impact the local community so much better than we can do it from a national level.
Oh yeah. Well, one of the problems that you have is a lot of veterans, I talked about this all the time with people that got on the show, sometimes veterans get out of the service, don't know what they're doing, they go home and sit on the couch and don't do anything. And so really what you've highlighted here more than once is the community that, the local community that really does a tremendous part of making sure that veterans taken care of. So that's the kind of people we got to reach out to and make sure they understand exactly what's there.
And the other piece too, Sergeant Major, is engaging with families.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
One of the best, at church, I did a PACT Act event, and the spouses were the ones that came up to me and were like, okay, I'll make sure he's signed up. And I had one gentleman in particular, he wears his Navy hat every Sunday to church, and he wasn't in my briefing. And I thought, well, you wear your Navy hat, come on. And so I went up to him one day when I was ushering and I said, hey, I didn't see you at the PACT Act event. Have you already applied for your benefits? And he said, and this is part of the mis and disinformation we still have to fight against, Oh, I was told when I was in the Navy that because I didn't actually go to Vietnam, even though I was on the ship, that I'm not a veteran. And and I said, "No, you're it's not a club, like, you get booted out of. You're definitely a veteran." And so he still wouldn't sign up for his benefits. Well, the couple of weeks later, his wife, we ended up ushering together. And so I said, "You know, your husband, has he signed up for the PACT Act?" And she said, "I thought he qualified for that." And I said, "He did." And by Wednesday, he was signed up for the PACT Act. She sent me an email.
Yeah, let me tell you something. You can do a lot. I've been married a long time. I'm not going to tell you how long it is. But if my wife keeps me in the right direction, she'll say, "No, don't do this," and whatever she says, I just say, "Yes, ma'am. I'm just going to get it done." That's for sure. Yeah, the worst thing about it, people listen to lawyers. I used to call them the S kind of lawyers, shithouse lawyers. I'll say it anyway. Shithouse lawyers that probably don't know anything, and you listen to them and you think that's gospel. No, you got to find out the truth. That's for doggone sure. Hey, a while back we devoted a whole show to homelessness. And I know the VA has made a concentrated effort to reduce homelessness among the veterans over the past 4 years. And this is why was the mission so personal for you and the Secretary McDonald?
For me, Sergeant Major, part of it was I was very worried that my dad would actually, he was housing insecure. And he was a soldier who, while in the military, could really control his alcoholism. And then when he retired, wasn't. And so part of everything that I've done at VA has been kind of as a daddy's girl on wanting to make sure that the gaps that I saw with my father were gaps that we could focus on. And so for homeless, the secretary asked me when I became chief of staff, uh, he said, "What is your portfolio?" And I said, I'm your chief. Like, I don't need a portfolio. He said, "No, we can't do this by ourselves. It just can't be the deputy and I. You as the chief needs a portfolio." And I said, "Then I want homelessness and I want cemeteries." And both of those issues were tied to my father. And so with homelessness, you know, understanding that we need is, LA is a prime example. We need to have housing that secures veterans and keeps them safe until they're ready to join a program. And that's what the tiny homes in California are able to do. We have 144 tiny homes in California, in greater Los Angeles, where a veteran can, for the night, have a place to stay with a door that locks on campus that has security, showers, and they're asked Monday through Friday, "Are you ready?" And if they're ready, then we can get them enrolled into our programs and put them on a path to permanent housing. Even our police officers know in LA that if they find a homeless veteran, we have 6 tiny homes where they can come. It's open 24 hours, where that veteran can just go spend the night and then in the morning get checked in, and they're going to get 3 meals a day. They're going to be able to secure their stuff. And it's just, meeting veterans where they are. And so the other piece, and part of this started previous to our administration, so I can't take credit for all of it, but we were able to open 3 facilities that housing an additional 600 veterans during our tenure here. And that's just, permanently. And they're beautiful. They are absolutely stunning. And that's part of that community that you and I were talking about earlier, where veterans will take care of another veteran better than they take care of themselves.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And so when you are able to do that, you see them thrive.
yeah, that's the same thing I talked about a little while ago. Is the fact that we have so many people that struggle when they get out of the service. They don't fit in, they don't find employment, and they live on the streets. And so it goes back to what I said before. I wish there was a better way for us to talk about mental illness or what challenges you're going to go through. And I think we need to be upfront about those issues, and we're just not upfront about them. We're at the very end. Once I get out of that 20 years, I'm sort of thrown out. A guy used to joke to me, he said, "Don't let the door hit you in the backside." Well, there's a lot of truth to that. Because once you walk out that door, that's it. You're in another life. You're doing things a little bit differently. So I think education is the key to success. And I think we're missing the bullet just a little bit on that. And I think that's something that that we ought to take a hard look at. And I don't know why we haven't looked at it. Maybe it's cost or whatever. But I don't think it'd be very hard to set up some kind of educational program that tells me at 18 years old, when I went to war, the effects of that, what could happen to me. And that's lasted, another 60 plus years in my life that I had to sort of manage and work through myself with no assistance. So
I was super fortunate. I was able to go to therapy while I was in.
Yeah.
But part of my challenge was I redeployed and I was on orders to the Pentagon, so I just went straight to the Pentagon. Right? No block leave, no nothing. Don't press go. Just go. And so for me, it was kind of a long burn, and then finally hit the wall and was like, oh, I'm gonna need to talk to somebody. And I just think that I agree with you, being able to have those conversations openly, and and being able also, I think, to share. I think that's what was so great about being in VA is you see younger veterans and older veterans talking, that sense of community. If you ever go to any of our dining facilities, that's the sense of community that's there, which is why I think a lot of veterans love getting their care at the VA and spending time with fellow veterans and having those conversations, because they're not comfortable sometimes talking to their families about those things.
No, I agree. One of the things, sometimes I'll talk about certain things that will make me tear up, and I think people have to see that you're real. The only difference between me and a private is I have a different job. Only in terms of being a general, I got a different job than he does. But we're all the same. We're all in the same little bowl right there, and we got to help each other out. Another issue I know is especially important to you is women veteran care. And would you talk about the changes in the women veteran care over the past 4 years, and why? And you said it a minute ago, why that's a top priority for you?
Absolutely. I have met many women who simply either didn't think they were a veteran, who compartmentalized their service because their husband did 20, they only did 4, because they got out because they were pregnant. Back when, that was the law of the land. If you were pregnant, you couldn't serve. And so they've minimized their service and they've kind of compartmentalized it and put it to the side. And so really taking the opportunity to be the first woman in this role to say, hey, first and foremost, I see you served, and you have rights and benefits that you should use because you've earned them. And so, using my platform for all veterans, but also really wanted to take the opportunity to talk to our women veterans as much as I can. So I did speeches going around the country, different states, Arkansas, Las Vegas, Nevada. Being able to really reach our women veterans has been part of the best privilege of being in this role. And we have seen women respond. We are seeing more women enrolled for their benefits, and we're seeing more women come to VA for their health care. And they're coming to the health care because we can provide them total care. And we're able to do menopause care. We're able to do reproductive health care. We're able to do the mental health care. And we also have, in many of our locations, different entrances if they want to just be around their fellow women veterans. We also have clinicians who are specially trained for our women veterans to be able to provide them culturally competent care. But so incredibly proud of the work that we are doing with our women veterans.
Yeah. Hey, this has been a great discussion. I just have a couple more questions for you. But first, there's always a but first with everything I guess I do. We need to take another short break, so don't you go anywhere. I enjoyed this discussion. Now, here's a word from one more of the organizations that make this show possible.
You're watching Your Next Mission video podcast, brought to you in part by Blue Cross Blue Shield FEP Dental, Blue Cross Blue Shield FEP Vision.
Part of transitioning out is that dental and vision insurance breaks off from your medical insurance.
Vision and dental is very important to be able to enjoy your retirement.
Blue Cross Blue Shield makes the transition so much easier.
Now back to your host, the 12th Sergeant Major of the Army, Jack L. Tilley.
Welcome back. We're blessed to be here today with Honorable Tanya Bradsher, former Deputy Secretary of the VA and a 20-year U.S. Army combat veteran. Remember, this is your show. We know there's so many issues that directly affect you, and we want to address each and every one of them. So please, as I said so many times, reach out to me. Tell me what topics you'd like us to cover. You can call or text me at 844-424-1134, or send me an email at SMA Tilley at yournextmission.org. And guess what? I'll reach back out to you. Ma'am, as we move on, or as you move on in your career of public service, what are some of the top issues that really keeps you up at night?
Veteran suicide.
Yeah, it drives off. I agree 100%. I just, I don't know if I'm right on the numbers or not. Sometimes I'm a little off. Somebody told me one time, since about 2001, there's been more than 125,000. Again, I could be off on the number. That keeps me up at night too. If I could figure out one way to help the veteran community, I mean, there's a lot of people out there trying to do it right now, but it's mind-boggling. It goes back to what I said before: is we got to start talking about those things. What affects you? Again, I can only relate to myself. I went through some wacky things in my life. I'm sure you have too, but you got to be open about it. You got to talk about how you feel. And tell people that. I've had at least 3 people that I know personally that taken their life by suicide. And each day I say to myself, geez, if I'd have reached out and called them or said something to them or talked to them or did something, what could I have did a little bit differently? And I don't know. It just, I guess I can understand that they go through a lot of depression, because you gotta, people like us, I've seen things I want to forget. Ugh. Lord, I was at a young man at 18 years old. I was stepping over bodies and doing all sorts of things that I really probably don't want to talk about. But it's tough. It's tough. So
It's incredibly tough, but I do want your audience to know that first and foremost, and family members as well, any veteran who is in suicidal crisis can go to any hospital, any ER in the United States and get treated, and the VA will pick up the bill. Secondly, 988, press 1, talk to us. We're going to get you assistance. And, just make sure that you reach out, right? So between going to the ER, 988, press 1, we also have text messaging now available. So being able to, once again, trying to reach veterans where they are is so incredibly important. And it's just heartbreaking, but it is preventable. And we know that, but one is too many. And so until we're able, to get down to 0, we have to continue to fight it each and every day with all the resources that we have.
yeah, that goes back to what I talked before. Is we've got to start talking about this a lot earlier. We got to start at the beginning. I mean, I love the VA and I love all the things they're doing to make a lot of improvements, but the military services have to start talking to it a lot earlier about the effects. And you got to be honest, most people that get hurt or go to war, that fight wars, are really young kids. 18 to 24, I think the average age is. And so they're out fighting a war and they're doing all those things, but we have no earthly idea what the impact of it's going to be on them for the rest of their lives. And that's the kind of stuff that goes on. I wish, again, I'm with you. I wish we could find some way to fix it, but I don't know. They keep trying. In some cases, it just seems like it's getting worse.
I do think, like, how many are impacted by their discharge?
Yeah.
Right. And I think the other piece too that I would love to see a conversation, if I was queen for a day, is, for service members, I was about to say soldiers, but for service members across the board, to fully understand how the benefits that they lose if they aren't discharged under honorable conditions. Right. And so the resources that are available to them aren't as plentiful if they don't have that honorable discharge. And I think that's a conversation I would love to see in the company commanders having with their soldiers, with the battalion commanders having, because that education process, that if a soldier isn't, sorry, there I go again, if a service member isn't discharged under honorable conditions, they don't have their GI Bill. So if they don't have their GI Bill, what are they going to go do? They're going to go home to mom and dad. And there's a, so I think also having a better education on for leadership within the military to understand like how their VA benefits will help them, because really, if you look at it, I'm a 4th generation Army soldier. We recruit our own. And so when you look at recruiting and you look at, when things don't go well, it impacts not just that one service member, it has a cascading impact on recruitment in the future. So I think, really integrating the knowledge about the VA while they're serving so that transition is even easier, understanding what the VA is instead of trying to get it in taps and one day when they're just like, I just need to go get a job. I need to go get a job.
Yeah.
I got to pay for the truck. Right. And so those are the things too that I would love to see better integration and earlier.
Yeah. I've said for years, there's 2 things I think we need to put in our non-commissioned officer and officer education program. One of his BA entitlements and benefits and entitlements, and the other one is financial education, especially in the enlisted side. And we ought to put that in our educational system to sort of help people as they go through that process. Hey, this has been no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just said officer too.
Absolutely, that's for sure. Hey, this has been a great discussion, and one other thing I want to say about, so we're talking about suicide prevention, or people that take their life by suicide, is that the people that are listening, never think that you're alone. There's always somebody there that'll help you. They'll do whatever they can to make sure that you're assisted in any way that you can, that we can do to help you. But never think that you're alone. You said it probably a lot better than I could say it, but we're all part of a family. And we need to make sure that we take care of each other. This has been a great discussion, and of course, like everything else, it's got a start and a finish. So any final thoughts, anything you want to say, anything maybe we want to talk about again, or just mention it to the audience before we get off here?
I just want to encourage all of our veterans out there, if you have not filed for your benefits, please do so. If you haven't filed for your benefits in the last 5 years and you're below 100%, and especially for those that have been exposed to toxins deployed overseas, please resubmit and make sure that you have access to all the benefits you have earned. If you have not signed up for VA healthcare, please do so. Please check in every couple of years. You may not need us now, but you may need us in the future. And also, I also want to put in a plug for our amazing cemeteries. They are absolutely beautiful and stunning, and you can pre-qualify. We also have the Veterans Legacy Memorial, where you're able to put in and go find any burial or person that is buried in our cemetery and add information about them, add their picture. So I uploaded my dad's photo. And so Arlington, as well as all of our cemeteries, and VA will fit into your life at whatever stage you are in, but please stay tethered to us. If you're not receiving your emails from the VA, please sign up, because every year there's a new law, there's a new program, something is coming out. We're not the same VA as we were yesterday, and we're not going to be the same VA tomorrow. So just stay connected to us.
Well, I'm staying connected, and I'm still working on my percentage, just to let you know. I reapplied.
Good. I'm glad you did. Thank you.
Yeah, but anyway, hey, thanks again for coming on the show. You're a wonderful person. Please, if we can ever help you in any way, please reach out to us. We appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you, Sergeant Major.
All right. Thanks again to the Honorable Tanya Bradsher for being with us today. And I'm Jack Tilley, 12th Sergeant Major of the Army. You've been enjoying Your Next Mission video podcast, and thank you for joining us. Log on to our website, yournextmission.org, and leave me a review. Give me an honest review. Remember, it's about you. We want to make it better for all of us. While you're there, you can visit our nonprofit and corporate partners who have jobs and services available that can assist you in your transition from the military. And check out our job board in partnership with Recruit Military and Upline, where you can create your own personal profile that will match you with just the right job in real time. You can follow me on all my personal social media pages: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Rumble. And if you like what we're doing at Your Next Mission, please click on that subscribe button below. And don't forget to click on the bell to receive notifications about all of our upcoming video podcasts. Remember, we want to hear from you. Please leave me a message or send me a text at 844-424-1134 or send me an email at SMA Tilley at yournextmission.org. Thanks again to Deputy Secretary Bradsher for joining us today. And I want to just probably caveat what she said today. You're not by yourself. We're all part of a family. The VA wants to make it better and better and better for all of you. Just think, now I've been out, I don't want to tell you how long I've been out of the Army, but I've been out of the Army for a while now. And I've watched the changes in the VA. I've watched the way that they want to help people and make a difference in all of our lives. So don't sit on the couch and think that nobody wants to help you, because we are all part of a family. I've said it 2 or 3 times already. The only difference is I'm just not going to give you any money. I'm going to try to help you out. But God bless each and every one of you, and thank you for watching or listening to us today. So thanks for watching, and thanks to New Mind Studios, of course, our sponsors, Navy Federal Credit Union, Purdue Global, USAA, Blue Cross Blue Shield FEP Dental, and Blue Cross Blue Shield FEP Vision. We appreciate all you do for our military. And as always, see you on the high ground. Hooah!
You've been listening to Your Next Mission, brought to you by the American Freedom Foundation. Learn more by visiting yournextmission.org.